This is like one of the nerdiest webinars I've been on in a while, which is really fun.
The work, when we talk to the people that we're supporting, the people that we're in community with, is really powerful. It's changing lives in different ways. It's enabling stability for folks who've not had it before. However, we are not able to get access to the capital that we need.
When you don't have as big of a funnel, it's really difficult to, acquire capital, but there is a real need for speed and when it comes to capital.
What I hope is that a tool like aggregation starts to draw the lines between this like very fragmented group of funders that all want slightly different things and starts to get them to not just be more efficient with whatever they were deploying, but start to get the case of we should deploy more.
A big piece of our education goals is to, kind of make the case that this isn't as scary as it seems. It's not as risky.
Essentially, you have two things that have different needs. And one of the only ways to kind of solve for both of those sides is to have some kind of institution that can balance those field needs with what capital needs in a way that can actually increase the amount of capital that's available. There's a lot of money out there, but all of that money has completely different needs and they vary by who those individual funders are, which creates a ton of complexity for any individual organization. If you flip to the other side of that, you have more than 300, likely significantly more than 300 initiatives, and they should not have to really compromise those goals, especially as they relate to the community. If you are local and place-based, you should not be put in a position to accept really expensive market capital and be less affordable and serve less of the needs that you were responsive to. And on the other hand, if you are someone who wants to make CLTs exist at a national scale, should be able to try and do that and not be forced down the line into one other direction. You essentially need two different solutions that could work in parallel and then make them complementary. So our solution was you have two aggregators, one that is focused on the smaller hyper-local efforts. The goal is to take this kind of really scattered philanthropic ecosystem where you have to go rely on one local funder and one community foundation and one national funder into something simplified. We use the term field catalyst for a reason. What we are meaning is it provides supports that are much greater than just capital. There is a number of things organizations need, from technical assistance to back office functionings to capacity supports that'll strengthen their ability to work, especially at the small hyperlocal level. On the other hand, you need a tool that can create the capital markets infrastructure for these models that want to make community ownership this proliferated national scale kind of thing, where it's as familiar to us as a mortgage is.
There's really just a lack of long-term affordable debt.
People sometimes refer to this as like, oh, like you need the catalytic capital that goes and unlocks everything else. I think the big thing at the local level is some of these back office supports are actually much more meaningful than we give them credit for. Like if you can have really strong, almost like HR, finance, budget teams, like community program management,
Ongoing staffing, technical assistance, doing building repairs.
it's a very underrated need that people kind of I don't think is like this is a sexy thing to fund, but is like an awesome in terms of actually unlocking people's time and capacity.
The need for support for local ecosystem stewards, kind of like the quarterbacks in their community to, be resourced. The way to identify these folks is to talk to the people who are doing community ownership on the ground. There's the real question of like, what is the highest leverage of philanthropic dollars? I think it's really worth thinking about partnerships from a funder side with other institutions like CDFIs, like local governments, to use funding for, explicitly pilot programs to say like, hey, we'll foot the bill for this innovative, unique project. We want this to scale, but we can't always be the one who does that. If you have a city or county government that has some funds, say for acquisition or for, longer term permanent financing, it really is transformative.
If you can show a project is viable by being an early commitment, whether it's philanthropic capital or whether it's like very, very low rate debt, you can kind of cover just 10%. And then everyone else in a local community or at a national level will say, okay, like someone's put some early capital in, I trust it. There is this need for this almost like 0 to 3% return capital. It's easier to raise grants and it's easier to raise market capital. But that 0 to 3 crunch that we think is catalytic is kind of the thing that everyone wants, which is a really hard, complicated place to be. So then the question is, How do we get that, and what are we willing to change to get something like that? There are priorities a community will hold. There are things that capital will need, and those are not the same thing.
Every basis point that is tweaked does have real ramifications for, how much money you're going to be able to have for technical assistance. What is your rent cap formula? These are real trade-offs that project leaders need to face.
Every organization will need to come to the decision in a different way, but everyone should like identify where are the things that are bridges too far. We are at that stage of people are actually just starting to see one another as in the same group.
Really, to identify and strengthen this, there kind of needs to be this network support, experience sharing, and just like socializing a lot of these concepts so that the folks who, are the unsung heroes in their community are recognized as such.
And then as those things turn into these dense webs, I think it just helps move things forward a lot. And we just need to see kind of more of it, just getting everyone up to the same place of we're in this together, which is maybe a little kumbaya, but I think it's a nice place to be.